Welcome back to Another Thing. There has been so much talk over the last few weeks about unbound delegates, unpledged delegates, and pledged delegates, and super delegates, because there was a real possibility going into both conventions that it could be an open convention or a contested convention. All these terms have been floated around, and we want to figure out what it all means. Here to talk about that is Ted Maciag, who is an election lawyer, and you have a long and storied political career. You've been with a lot of administrations and a lot of campaigns, and we really appreciate you being here.
Good morning, Larry. It's good to be here.
When we thought of doing this topic, we thought that there would be a contested convention for the Republicans, as many thought. That's not going to happen now.
Doesn't seem likely.
But there is a possibility on the Democratic side, at least Bernie Sanders thinks there is, if he can woo some of the superdelegates over to him. Let's start by explaining what a superdelegate is.
Yeah, superdelegate, it actually goes back historically to 1972, when George McGovern sort of took over the Democratic convention, and the party didn't like the idea of an outsider being able to win. So by the time 1984 came around, Walter Mondale fended off Gary Hart, even though Gary Hart won 27 primaries and Mondale only won 16. Because Mondale got all of the superdelegates.
And that's happening,
and to this day, 32 years later, the Democratic Party still has superdelegates. Interesting, the Republican Party doesn't. There's only 118 Republican superdelegates, but there's 714 Democrats.
Now, to be clear, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, the superdelegates only exist so that the party has some control over who the nominee is in case there's somebody they don't want.
And I think that's a classic case we see right now in the Democratic Party. So in the primaries right now, Clinton is only leading on primary delegates roughly 1,700, 1,400. She's got about 54% of those delegates. If we were just relying on those delegates, for example, the California primary, if won by Sanders, could hand the nomination to Sanders. But that's not likely because the superdelegates, they're 714. Right now, Hillary's leading on those by like 510 to 30. So she's got 93% of the superdelegates, even though she's only got 54% of the primary delegates.
I want to make certain, because you're the political expert, that the statement I just made is correct, that it is absolutely set up so the party has some control over who the nominee is.
And in fact, I suspect there may be some people in the Republican establishment now who wish they had that.
I've heard it from people on the Republican side.
Because it's in effect designed to prevent an insurgent from coming in. So say if the Republicans had had this, maybe Jeb Bush would have started off with 400 or 500 delegates. If he faded, maybe they would have all gone to Marco Rubio. Maybe they would be with John Kasich. But there would have been a similar several hundred vote Republican bloc, probably would have been on your way to a Republican open convention right now.
And now you have this thing happening where Hillary Clinton can actually, most of the superdelegates are party officials, right? They're congressmen, senators,
state party chairs,
Republican leaders, some Republican leaders. They're all affiliated, Democratic leader, excuse me. They're all affiliated with the Democratic Party. And Hillary Clinton has done very good at contributing to all of those people over the last couple of years.
Perhaps even more than the last couple of years. It may go back 8 or 10 years. And it's ironic that many people think of the Democratic Party as presenting itself as the more populist party, if you will. It's actually the Republican system, which is more responsive to the actual popular primary electorate, because you don't have these superdelegates that can cancel out primary results.
What are the chances, do you believe, that some of these superdelegates would go to Bernie Sanders, let's say with the remaining primaries, that he starts to do really well, or he wins more than Hillary?
Well, it's an excellent question, because in effect it happened in 2008. There was an assumption that the superdelegates were with Hillary Clinton, because of her husband's prominence in the party and the longtime Clinton hold in the Democratic Party. But after the primary results started going more and more to Senator Obama, then Senator Obama, of course, what happened was some of the superdelegates actually started to move from Hillary Clinton to Obama. They did actually respond somewhat to the fact that the primary races were showing Obama winning. So arguably, if Sanders wins the next 7 or 8 primaries, maybe some of the superdelegates would have second thoughts, saying we don't want to nominate somebody who's lost 10 primaries in a row. So they could move. But right now, Hillary Clinton, I'll say again, has got 93% of the superdelegates who have declared are going with Hillary.
And Bernie Sanders acknowledges the only path to victory that he has is to convince some of those superdelegates to come over.
I think even if he wins all the remaining primaries, again, he would then have to use the pressure from that to get some of the superdelegates to jump off of Clinton and move back to Sanders.
You know, it seemed early on in the campaign, everybody thought, oh, Hillary Clinton has it wrapped up. The interesting one is the Republicans, and that's switched in the last couple of weeks.
Certainly the last couple of weeks, yeah. Although it's been noted that the Democrat convention is unlikely to be a contested convention for the simple reason if you have two candidates and not a number of votes, somebody's got to get 51%. So it's unlikely unless somehow a third-party candidate gets nominated off the floor or something, a third candidate, it's really unlikely that that actually will go past the first ballot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. It's good to talk to you. Ted Maciag, who is an election lawyer and has a long, storied political career. Dawn is up next when Another Thing continues.